Hello, my name is Lars, and this time I'm going to show you how to make silicone prosthetic with Platgel 10. Here, first of all, always put gloves on when you work with any chemicals whatsoever, because it's very important regardless of what the chemical is. Just do it as a habit and then you will be safer. Now I'm weighing up the first layer of the encapsulating layer of the Platgel. So remember, in this video, all the measurements you see are for this project, so you have to make up your own recipe. And the encapsulating layer is just Platgel A and Platgel B and a little bit of flocking. I usually add the flocking because then it's so much easier for me to see where I've put it on the plaster heads and molds. Something I didn't show you in the video here was that I put ordinary hand soap on both my molds, or on all the molds here, because I'm going to show you 3 different ways of filling molds. Actually 2, it's slightly different. So you mix up the Platgel here, and the soap on the molds are well dry. It's been on there for more than an hour, so it's nothing wet anymore. And then you take the Platgel mix here, and you take a polyurethane sponge, an ordinary sponge, and just dab it out very, very thinly all over the surface. Later on we're going to fill the inside of it with Platgel with deadener in it and the softener oil. So we want a surface that is dry, because the deadener mix is always a bit sticky. Now you can see it's getting a bit shiny where I've applied the silicone. It's quite important that you work fairly fast, and you can see all the little vent holes that is drilled on the positive. It's important that you don't let that fill up with silicone, so be a bit gentle around there. You're going to see later on that I'm actually using a little tool to poke out silicone that's gotten into the holes in one of the molds. But never try to do this with a latex sponge. I've said it in the other video as well, but if you use a latex sponge, the silicone won't be able to gel and never dry, and you will have really difficult time cleaning your molds out. So the first mold that I did, the full face mold, that I'm going to inject the silicone into, but the little nose here I'm just going to make it so I can just push it together and put a weight on top of it. And over to the left you can see the third mold, that's the forehead, and I did that one in different plasters. You can see how it differs in the end result, and I also made it more of a traditional foam latex mold, because it was actually made for foam latex to the very beginning. Just dab on everywhere. Doesn't matter if you go outside of the prosthetic, and that's just gonna fall off afterwards. So in this video, most of things are in real time, but in this one I have edited a little bit out, because I didn't think you wanted to wait 20 minutes and just look at the molds when they were drying. but for the application video everything is done in 100% real time. Here you can see I've got a little bit too much silicone into the vent holes, so I had to clean them out. And now you just put the molds together, first firmly with your hands and then use clamps. I prefer to use these quick grip clamps instead of those screw clamps, because these are great because they don't twist the mold sideways as an ordinary one would. You can get these in most hardware shops and they cost close to nothing. Okay, I'm going to put this mold together. As you saw in the slideshow video, I did quite a lot of grips in the molds. It would be easy for me to do this, and it really paid off and made it very simple for me. Now you're going to see I'm putting them on very loosely first on all four sides, all four corners, and one at the bottom, but I'm not tightening them. It's quite important that you don't tighten things until you have all the clamps in place, because if you do, then the mold can like go sideways a little bit, and you don't want that. See, now I'm tightening them properly and tightening them on both sides at the same time. There was some little junk lying there. Now you can see I'm putting gloves on again because it's chemical time. You could mix this in a paper cup and things as well, but I prefer to use something that is a little bit more sturdy, so I can really work hard on the mixing. For this project I needed about 70 grams of A, 70 grams of B, and 140 grams of deadener. And here comes my pigments. I really like this very easy mix. I take deadener and then I crush some ultra foundations from Cryolan down into the deadener, and smashing it up really good, and then I add quite a lot of flocking, and then I make a lot of the color before I start a project, and then I just weigh out exactly how much of the pigments I'm using. In this case I think it was 17 grams of it. Yeah, it was. And I think to make the mix I used like 300 grams of deadener and how much was it? 30 grams of grease paint, and maybe 15 to 20 grams of flocking, but you have to try to find your own recipe there, because of course it differs on what color you want on the prosthetics. But the main perk of this is that you can recreate the same color on every prosthetic you make. It's great if you work for film and stuff and you need to have it looking exactly the same every day. So now the A component, the color, and the deadener is in. So I'm mixing that up first. Why I'm doing that and not mixing everything together is that I want to make sure that there's no lumps left in the paint. So I'm checking it pretty carefully now. Because sometimes I'm not doing quite as a good job as I should do with the crushing of the grease paint. It's very difficult to find mold. When I'm holding it up like that, I can see any possible lumps in there. You can see I've put the syringes up in a drilled holes in a little piece of wood. They would stand up easily, and it would be easier for me to fill them later on here when everything is done. Once again, careful mixing. If you don't do this properly, you will have parts of the silicone that doesn't gel and doesn't dry. This is one of the bits where I should have cut a little bit away, but it's better to stay with real time, and you really know how long things would take. When I'm pouring the silicone here now, I'm pouring it from quite high up. First I have to instruct my cameraman where to film. I'm pouring it from quite high up because that breaks down any bubbles that I've created by mixing it. I'm filling. I think I'm going to fill all 4 syringes. Just 3. Then I'm taking the stuff that's left in the jar and filling the nose mold here. And you see I'm pouring from quite high up again. Pouring down in the deepest place of the mold and also at the top. And for small things, this works really well. Not to inject it. First press with all of your power and take a big lump of metal on top. Of course you could put it together with clamps and stuff as well, but I think it's quite easy just to do it like that. Okay, and when you're filling the syringe, turn it upside down, so you have to empty it from air. Here you see it's good to have gloves on, because that would have gone on my skin. Square a little bit out there, making sure you have no bubbles in there. I'm just putting that in the big hole that you could see on the other one. Just making it sturdy first, and then preparing the other syringes. The bigger the syringe you can get, the better it is. I'm gonna start experimenting soon here now with a mechanical way of doing it instead, but we'll see if I can get it to work, because it's quite hard work to actually put it in the mold. I don't know what I was doing now. I was probably a bit confused as usual. Okay, now I've started injecting, and in the beginning it's quite important that you press very slowly, because it needs time to spread in the mold. And you see I've got a lot of all the little red marks there are drilled holes that go through as ventilation, and when I'm done, silicone have to be coming out of each and every one of them, otherwise my mold ain't full. And you're always going to experience it with every mold you have like one little problem area where you have a difficult time to get the silicone to. You see, now it starts coming up. First time you're filling a mold, that's really exciting when you see it works, it flows in the mold. Because you never know until you've tried it for the first time that your sculpture was thick enough to create enough space to for the silicone to move around. Okay, I'm gonna let the other mold wait now for a little bit, and because if I'm just taking it easy with it, all the little air bubbles, possible air bubbles, hopefully I have none, but they will start going up towards the vent holes, and then I want to have a little bit of silicone left in my syringe so I can push them out. And here's the old foam latex mold. Like the Platgel is wonderful because you can actually use silicone in an old foam latex mold, which was not possible with any other silicone I've tried. The point why I did this mold in another plaster, this is Moldano plaster, and the others molds, they are in Ultracal 30. I wanted to show that you don't get the same precision with another plaster than Ultracal, but this mold became really good. So the edges were quite good on this one too. And now you see I'm going back to the first mold to squeeze out the little air bubbles. You can see just behind the syringe at the top there, you can see there was a few little bubbles coming out. Oh, this is what I edited away. You didn't want to sit and wait for 20 minutes, did you? Takes up too much time in our precious lives. See, now everything is dry. Before I started taking the clamps away, I of course checked in my mixing bowl to see if everything was really dry. You don't have to worry about taking all those little bits out from the vent holes, because I have never broken the piece, the prosthetic, by doing that. I'm just pulling it out. And as we're going to submerge these molds in water later on here, then the water can come in through the vent holes as well, and that's making things a lot easier. I was very logical there. I'm starting to fill up the wrong bucket. And then I'm putting in the other one as well. I don't think I remember to film that. Oh, I did. It's important that you leave it in there for a little while, because you want to get the water in there so the water will dissolve the soap that you used as a release agent. So 10 minutes is usually good, because I was filming it. I really had to keep my grunts and moans to a minimum, because it's quite hard work. It feels like it sticks like crazy. So you really have to try to pull it apart nice and gentle. You see, I'm starting just lifting it at the bottom a little bit, because I made sure that I didn't have any undercuts there. But when I'm finally lifting it, I'm taking it from the top. And very important that you work on both sides at the same time. See, now it's starting to come off. And then checking in, so releasing it a bit more. It always sticks where you injected it because you can never get the whole silicone piece away there. Just take it nice and slow. Don't rush it because you will just break it. I think I actually did break this piece a little bit because I was rushing it a bit too much. See, there's just under the chin there's a little hole. Yeah, there it was. Just rushing it a bit too much, but it's also a very, very thin piece there. Then you just wash it off. Just chuck it in water again and let the water run on it for a little while, because there's still leftovers of soap on it. There we go. That was easy, wasn't it? I didn't film taking the forehead out. It was just like taking the big mold apart. I figured I'll show you a little bit more of the nose here in the end of the film. There we go. Now you get some nice close-ups of it. You can see how thin the edges are. They're really, really thin. And you can also see how soft and pliable it is. It moves so well with skin. I just love Platgel. Okay, that was it. I hope you enjoyed the video and that you will watch the next one too.